is going on? I want to thank you for coming to Vape with a Viking. So today what I got for you is a little older RTA, but we got the little mini going on here, little Wasp Nano RTA. Everybody is hugely familiar with Ouimer's hit product, the Wasp Nano RTA, and of course their newest collaboration with Mark Vaping Fagan with the Bulk RTA. Amazing RTA. I use it pretty much every day. So what this was this is of course before the Bulk, but of course after the RDA, they decided to, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can make a tank out of that little Wasp Nano, make it super affordable, but make it work just as well. So, because you'll notice a lot of reviewers, if you go back and look, a lot of big reviewers too, really touted that Wasp Nano as, especially for the price, a nice little tiny just flavor banger. So I still have one. I still use it for juice tasting every once in a while, but I've kind of grown out of it. So before we get all into that, you know, we have this on the Armor Pro by Vapresso. Armor Pro by Vapresso. And that's kind of a little bit of an older little mod. It was one of my first mods where I started really tweaking my own temperature control curves and stuff. Really good little mod too. Really hardy. But I've got actually just a standard dual fuse Clapton in there now. I've ran a couple different builds in it. That's what's in it now. And I'm running some Dark Star, one of their new flavors, Peach Iced Tea. This one, definitely if you do not like a culotta, not your kind of cup of tea. Eh? But it does. It tastes literally like a Snapple or Lipton's pre-made peach iced tea. Not as sugary, of course, as our drinks, but you do get a tiny bit of the sweetness from the peach more than actual sugar. And you really do get that nice kind of hearty exhale of not only culotta, but the tea. And it is kind of like spot on, almost like instant or not freshly brewed tea, if that makes sense. You know, kind of like Lipton's, Snapple, stuff like that. So really good, really refreshing. And that peach isn't overwhelming. It's not a very heavy, sugary, syrupy peach. It's just really good. And it's definitely good for this time of year. So I had to turn off the AC so you didn't hear that constant hum in the back. So let's get some vape advocacy and let's dive down on this so I can turn back on the AC. So Vikings advocacy minute, like I tell you every single time, you don't have to be involved, but please, please, please get informed. Knowledge is power. If we wake up tomorrow and you had no idea that all this was going on in vaping and we can't vape anymore, it's kind of on us. We've got to be in the know, because the nice little thing is people say, Viking, don't tell people not to get involved. We need to get involved. Well, more than likely, if you get informed, it might be a day, it might be a week, it might even be a month. But you're going to keep reading this stuff, and you're going to finally be like, wow, enough is enough. I'm going to get involved. So please go to, I have links in my descriptions of all my videos. You have CASA, you have Not Blowing Smoke, you have a bunch of advocacy groups on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. I mean, it's just everywhere. There's almost zero excuse anymore for you not to be informed, because it's literally everywhere. If you vape and you're on any social media, it should be popped up at any point in time. So, and of course, if you watch me, you're like, he keeps yelling at me about it. So just remember, knowledge is power. Be informed. So back onto this little 23 millimeter little RTA. Yeah, we'll do what we do like normal. We'll dive down on it, put a build on it, which will probably be different once in here now because I've been testing it for a while. Throw some juice in it. We'll come back up. We'll vape on it. I'll tell you where you can grab it, kind of the price range, and my thoughts on it. So let's drop the hammer on the Wasp Nano RTA. All right, so what I got for you today is the Wasp Nano RTA. Of course, you're pretty familiar with like the Wasp Nano RDA. Nice little small little flavor producers here, made by Ouimer. So on the side you have your kit contents, and then you have Ouimer and their website, and then their scratch authenticity. Then here's their social media, so you got Facebook and Instagram. And then on the back you have address and then some warnings as well. And on the inside you will have your RTA, spare glass. Bottom you'll have some of their organic cotton. You'll have your tri-tool, extra O-rings, a couple of spare grub screws, and a coil. And then of course their user manual. Alright, so on the device itself you do have is a plastic mouthpiece top combination here, and it is a fully threaded top. Got a sealing O-ring up there, and then your fill ports, and then at the bottom you got Wasp Nano Ouimer website again, and you do have a slightly protruding gold-plated 510, and then you have your airflow at the bottom here, and it is three-sided. It does have pretty easy adjustments to it here. There we go. And it is lock one side, lock on the other, and whenever you adjust on that, it's going to adjust on all three of them there. And then on the deck or bell itself, you just have one little logo there, and just a pretty decent machine it looks like there. So far the 510's the only kind of mishap or goof up on there. Nice threading there. O-rings are holding tight, but not super tight. And then here's your build deck, which looks pretty much like the Wasp Nano RTA. Looks like they tightened up the airflow a bit. They still kept those notches in there to secure your leads. Looks like flathead screws there. And you've got your positive side here with your peak insulator on that side, and then you have what's basically kind of like the like skyline deck style, like the Anakin Aries, Siren, stuff like that. And they do have a small little wall in there, and what that is definitely good for is when you bring your wicks down, it makes it so that the juice doesn't, come back and flood back on there. You have a kind of a wall or stability also for your wicks to kind of just come off the coil and down, and then you have just kind of a little bit of stability. I know specifically they did these for the mouth to lung ones, so because the air flow was down at the bottom there, it made it so that when you drew in, the wicks didn't kind of end up covering the air inflow, or covering the air ports. So with this one, since the air is up top up here, it's mainly going to be there for just stability of your wicks. Seem to be smooth, no catching or any stops or anything like that. Alright, see, that's them open. You can get a little higher if you want to, just depending on your coil. You can get probably a pretty decent size chunky coil in there. So if you go all the way pretty much to the top there, take your screwdriver and you can get that kind of passage in there, so you can get a pretty decent coil in there. So, and I'm just going to use the one it came with, which looks to be just like a fused Clapton, probably dual core fused Clapton. Alright, so we will get that going. We'll put it on, since it's a little small tank, need a little small device, so we'll put it on one of my old guys here. It'll beat up quite a bit. One of the Ouimer Pros, and we'll throw some Darkstar Cerberus in there, which Cerberus is their vanilla cream custard with a little bit of cheesecake, marshmallow, and cream in there. So we'll get it built, get some cotton in there, juice it up, and we'll come back up on top and I'll give you my thoughts on the Wasp Nano RTA. All right, back up with the Wasp Nano RTA. So get some particulars out of the way here. First, it is a 23 millimeter in overall diameter, where the RDA was 22. So just a smidge bigger, but makes sense. You can find it around on the internet anywhere from 20, 25 bucks, just depending on where you go look for it. I know when it first came out, it was closer to the 30 mark, which is kind of a little different when it first came out. A lot of people were okay with paying, 20 bucks for an RDA when the Wasp was out there, just the RDA. But then when this came out, I think this got bypassed a lot because it was a little higher for this brand, essentially, not Ouimer, but the Wasp line. People were not expecting to pay that much for it, so you didn't see really a lot of it out there. But it's definitely dropped in price now, 20, 25 bucks for an RTA. It's cheaper than the gear, and everybody knows that thing was pretty solid. So pros that I'm definitely going to have to say on it is they did take the air inlets into the blocks and did make them a bit smaller. One thing I definitely liked about that is the RDA at times could feel very, very airy. I don't think it really killed the flavor per se, because that thing just, I mean, your coil and mouth was like that far apart, so you were going to get flavor. With this, though, since you do actually have some distance between that deck and coil in your mouth, they were smart enough about it. They did make those air inlets smaller, so you're not going to have so much air in there. Another pro on there, the AFC on it is tight, but it's not like insanely tight. You do have to be kind of careful, so it could be a subjective thing. When you go to turn it more open, depending on how you put your devices on your mod, you can start spinning off your mod. I'm very easy. As soon as I put a device on a mod, as soon as it stops, I stop. I don't muscle it on there or anything like that. So for me, I have to kind of hold on to the glass and when I want to open the AFC. So that could be a pro or a con for anybody. The reason why it's a pro for me, I do like a little bit of a tighter AFC because I tend to fidget a lot. And if it's a really loose AFC, it'll move around on me. So hopefully you won't have to move that much if you don't like a really tight AFC. Should be able to set it, forget it. I guess this is going to be a con for a lot of people. For me, it wasn't a big deal, but capacity, it's just a really small 23 millimeter, holds 2 mils. And as far as I've seen, I haven't seen like a bubble glass option or anything like that. So really nothing for capacity. but it's going to be good for TPD because they can only have up to 2 mils. Pro for me, maybe a con for you. This plastic like top cap and basically mouthpiece in one. Some people won't like it because the fact that you can't really change anything up, and you cannot put a 5 or A10 drip tip in there. So it is just what it is. It's right there. But for me, it's actually really comfortable. And a lot of that probably has to do with that kind of glossy plastic. It's real nice feeling in the mouth. But I don't think you really want to mess with the mouthpiece at all. I think that would possibly hurt the flavor. It's nice and condensed as it is. It is definitely a very restrictive direct lung. I would say almost mouth to lung, but yet again, those air ports on the inside of the block are still technically too big, not compressed enough to do a true mouth to lung vape on it. So like right now, I'm at 0.46, running 43 watts, and this is 3/4 of the way open. So here we go. So again, some openness to it, but also some restrictiveness. And if you wick it just right, if you want that big old lung hit, you can sit there and hold it down. I have noticed I'm a chain vapor. So those big long draws like that, no matter how you have it wicked, eventually, probably after about 2, maybe 3 solid long hits off this, it will start to dry out. So the best thing to do with this is literally, if you're a big lung hitter, take like a half of a normal vape, maybe savor the flavor a little bit, and then it works and wicks just fine, keeps up perfectly well. So, but really cons, a lot of them are subjective. You know, there you got capacity, you got mouthpiece. There's a ton of different ones out there. For me right now, my biggest con is it does have good flavor. It is definitely subpar to the Wasp Nano RTA, but it's an RDA. Usually RDAs tend to have more or better flavor than an RTA, but that's kind of not true because I do get really good flavor like out of the bulk. This would probably, in my opinion, flavor-wise, maybe Kylan, not the Kylan Mini, but the full-size Kylan, maybe a Kylan 2 if you don't have a real good build in there. Probably just under the Zeus X. A lot of the big popular dual coil RTAs, it's probably getting close to being on par with those. But when you get a couple that are just good for you, like for me, the bulk is amazing. This doesn't hold a candle to it. But this also, on this mod, will last you easily all day, maybe even 2, depending on what kind of coil you got in there. So, but it's cheap enough. If you want to try it, definitely go grab it. But that is all I got today for the Wasp Nano RTA. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming by and vaping with Viking. And I'll check you later.